All right, guys, welcome back to the Let's Rock Review podcast. I'm really excited about this one today. We've stuck to Foo Fighters for a long time. We went over and did an Aquabats one with our special guest, Little Andrew,
Oh yeah.
and this one's going to be epic. I think it's going to be one of my favorite ones. Today we're talking about Tony Hawk Pro Skater, which, yes, is a video game. It's not a rock album, but it might as well be a rock album. Kurt, why are we talking about a video game on the Let's Rock Review podcast?
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, it's a video game, but it has one of the best soundtracks for a video game. Uh, I mean, I'm trying to think at the top of my head. I don't think there is one that rivals this one. Um, and we bring this up because 2 months ago, we're recording this November 29th, was actually the 25th anniversary of the release of this game. So, I mean, whether you are into video games or skateboarding, um, but most of you are here because of music, but it is still going to be good. And even if you're just a fan of one of those things, you'll enjoy it. But if you like all three of those, you're in for a real treat. So, um, yeah, video games in the past, they haven't really been known for music necessarily. I mean, you've got some classic songs that just became classic because of the game. First thing that comes to mind is Super Mario Brothers. That jingle, I feel like everyone knows. Yeah. Although it was funny because as we were preparing for this podcast, Andrew and I were playing Sackboy, the latest one on the PS5, and
Yes.
um, on comes Kool and the Gang, Jungle Boogie. I was like, what?
Yes.
Why? It's a game and a song I would never have thought be put together, but anyway, still does not rival this soundtrack. Like this is a big game. I bought a PlayStation just for this game. That was like the what really pushed the needle for me. A bunch of the other games looked cool, but this really just was like, okay, I gotta play this. Um,
This game did a lot of things for a lot of people. So you say you bought a PlayStation to play this game. I think a lot of people did.
oh
You
yeah.
have people, you have gamers playing a skateboarding game and now wanting to skate. You have
Hmm.
skaters now gaming because they want to play the skateboarding game.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good
there,
point.
there's so much behind this. Then you have this connection between the music and the video games at this time. They weren't like they are today, where they had soundtracks. This is one of the first video games that actually had not just some random score like Mario or Zelda or whatever it
Yeah.
was. Have some. It was just some 8-bit or 16-bit music behind it, and this is like the first game where they actually had a soundtrack. And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny because it still holds up to this day, like
Oh yeah.
as
Yeah.
one of the great soundtracks of all time. Maybe that's a bit nostalgic for us to say because we're a little biased to this, but you know
True. Yeah.
let's be honest here. We played this game together 20 years ago, so no, 25 years ago,
Yeah.
24 years, however long ago it was. We played this game together back in the day on the PlayStation a long, long time ago. And I mean, we didn't skate half as much as we biked, but man, it made me want to
True.
go out and do stuff, right? It made me want to
Oh
go out
yeah.
and ride. And
It I feel like it was just a big win for extreme sports in general. Like you think of the X Games, like biking and blading and just that whole scene. It was just a win for everyone.
yeah, how many people saw this, went to watch skateboarding on the X Games, and then saw biking or saw whatever else they had on the X Games? And you're like, oh, that's so cool. I want to watch more of that.
Exactly. But yeah, it made me think of like us riding around our spots, like the Vista Paint ledge that we would always go grind and uh
The Vista Paint Ledge was awesome.
yeah, Rite Aid, behind there, the ledges, and there's like that wood ramp there one time, and just all the spots and
Oh,
made me
that
think
piece
of.
of scrap wood we made into a ram. Heck yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. And how many cops did you argue with while we were out riding, Kyle?
I was
Because we weren't.
never I was never super disrespectful, but
No,
I
no,
did
no.
argue. It was more the people that I argued with
Yeah.
that would say things. But it's cool. Like the Vista Paint guys, like I guarantee they knew we were out there. They didn't care at
Oh
all.
yeah. Yeah.
That was other people you get caught. They're like, get off of here. The Vista Paint guys was like, nah, man, grind up our ledge. We do not care.
Yeah.
Like we'll just paint over it later.
There would be some guys like just we were just like riding on the sidewalk and they were getting mad. It's like, what? Anyway, back to the the soundtrack. I feel like I think we discussed like building up to the soundtrack. You kind of have to take a step back. I feel like we do need to talk about the game just a little bit, kind of the behind the scenes, not necessarily the gameplay, but like how this game came about.
Well, the gameplay though factors into it a little bit because
True.
when
Yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah.
the reason Tony Hawk got involved in this is because of the gameplay. So Tony
Yeah.
Hawk himself is a self-professed gamer. He likes to play
Yeah.
games, and he is this vert skater and wanted to get into the. I mean, there's so much more story behind this. Maybe you can fill in some of it, but he wanted to get behind a game, and he was actually working on a game. But they said he talked about how the controls were so complicated that he was like, no
Yeah.
one's going to be able to get into this. Like doing just simple and basic tricks is too difficult. So he met with Activision. They showed him what they had, and he was like, "This is it. Like this is the one because anyone, just like skating, anyone can get into this game and be like, oh, it takes a lot to get really good at the game, but to just start playing it."
Yeah.
Like my daughter, like because we downloaded the remake, right? And she starts
Oh yeah.
playing the game, and she, she's 8 now, so she's not, it's not like she's just poking buttons, but man, alive, like she got like a 10,000 combo just
Nice.
earlier today. We were playing earlier today, and she got like some 10,000. She did a wall plant to a kickflip to a grind. I was like, "What are you doing?" Like I don't even know how to do this stuff. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, it's very accessible game.
yeah. Well, and just leading up to it, like it was interesting. So Kyle and I, we for those listening, we watched this documentary on Peacock. It's Pretending I'm a Superman, where they do these interviews with Tony Hawk and other skaters. And um, leading up to the game, he just talks about skateboarding in general too, like um, the 80s skateboarding scene. But in Kyle, like you mentioned, like in the 90s, he was a vert skater. It had its ups and downs. Like it was popular, then it kind of faded, and sponsors were pulling back money. Like he talked about taking side jobs, like doing video editing. So yeah, when he heard about, oh, actually before the video game too, that's when in 1995, that's when the X Games first started. And if you're listening to this, I'm sure you've at least heard of something about the X Games, skateboarding and biking and blading and competitions, everyone competing against each other. And uh, him and Bob Burnquist, another skateboarder, they sat on an advisory board. They really wanted to make this better, like whatever they could do to help skateboarding out. And yeah, the video game people approaching. I don't know if you remember this story or if you saw this part when they brought in Tony Hawk to the meetings, like they wanted to show him the game. They're showing, the higher ups, they were showing him PowerPoints and
Oh
like,
yeah,
here's
so he
our
was falling
plan.
asleep.
Yeah, you could just see him like slouching down and like you could just tell he was bored. But then like when they got out the game that he could try it out, he lit up. He was like, this is it. This is easy to pick up and play right away. Like you said, Kyle, your daughter, she was able to do that crazy combo.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, she's played a few times. I mean, she's played before today, but yeah, like anyone can just pick it up and just start playing right away, and it's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah. And from there, like it was like, okay, everyone was on board. Let's do this. I like the interview with the lead artist. how like he really dived into this. Like he looked at the skaters, he looked at how they dressed, the music they
Yeah.
listened to. He said he immersed himself for 6 months, like just like let's make this game like amazing. Let's get it to be accurate. I mean, the culture of skateboarding, maybe not like the tricks themselves necessarily,
Yeah.
doing
Well, even the
work.
tricks though, because they made it. Um, they said it was like at the time it was like a bit unrealistic, but
Yeah.
they made people want to go try that stuff. And so now like you had stuff that people weren't capable of back in the day that they are now from from this game because they saw it in the game. Well, not necessarily because they saw it in the game. They're like, hey, I want to go try that. But in some cases, yeah, exactly that. It's hey, I want to go try that exact trick.
Yeah. And I loved Tony. He mentioned, his goal was to make a game that skaters could be proud of it. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I want them to feel like this is our game. And um yeah, definitely a good game. Funny story, he also, or one of the executives mentioned, or one of the guys on the video game part, not the skateboarding part, he was saying testers, they're coming in, trying out the game, and they kept saying how tight it was. And it's something he never heard before. It's funny hearing him say, he's like, they were saying how tight. It's like, I'm
Right.
sure
I
that's,
love that.
yeah, I'm sure that's not how the skateboarders were saying it. This is very
That's
tight.
tight, man. This is
Yeah, yeah,
tight. That's what they said. That's how they said it.
exactly.
That's how we said it 25 years ago.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the background like leading up to the music. You gotta figure out, what's going on behind the scenes of the game. Um, yeah, and then I loved in the documentary, they started interviewing some of the musicians of the bands that appeared in this soundtrack.
The music itself adds so much to the game. Like it,
It
it
really
gets you
does.
pumped
Yeah.
up. It gets you hyped. You start a run with like Superman playing or with Primus playing, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I got this. I'm gonna do this. And it just makes it so exciting. And I love the interviews they have with the musician. The oh, was it the lead singer of Primus they talked to? And they called him to ask him to use their song.
I think it was Larry, their guitarist.
Oh, the guitarist. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so he was like confused. He was like, "Wait a minute. What do you mean you want to use this song in a video game?" He's like, "Because they've never used songs like that in video games before, you know?"
Yeah,
He's like,
we
I
didn't
don't
know what that
understand.
meant.
He didn't know what that meant. I don't understand what you're talking about."
Yeah, and he adds like a lot of people found out about us through the video game. I thought that was
Yeah,
like it's gotta feel like interesting. It's like, I mean, in the end, it's like, who cares? As long as you're like listening to us, that's awesome. I feel
right.
like, yeah, I was familiar with Primus just because like they would get played on K-Rock, so we heard them. But yeah, one of the more well-known bands
I
in the
love
soundtrack.
the lead singer of Goldfinger, John Feldman. He says
Yes.
he said he attributes this game to some of his success, which
Yeah.
is fascinating to me because I mean I've loved Goldfinger for you know decades, and
Yeah.
they're a great band. I love a lot of their music. Um, but he says they're playing a show in Europe, and he's like they were playing all these songs. No one really knows us. No one's singing along. We're just opening for some band. We're just the random band opening for some other band. He said, but then we started playing Superman, and everyone sang every word to that song, and
Yes.
everyone was hype. And he was like, people knew that it was so. He said it was so exciting that people were getting so into the song that because of this video game, because this
Yeah.
song was featured in the video game, and people were so excited to hear this. And
Not
that's what he said. It put them on the map for a lot of people who had no idea who they were.
Yeah, not you're kind of missing some of what he said. They weren't just excited. He said they went, quote, freaking ballistic. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I was
And,
under dramatic. I'm sorry.
yeah. And he also said, "This is the biggest song we have because of a skateboarding video game."
Yeah.
And it was interesting because John Feldman of Goldfinger, like his approach was, well, I don't want to say approach because I mean all of them agreed to be on the soundtrack, but I guess his information going into this was a little different. Because he started out saying like in the 90s, like nobody wanted their music in anything, like commercials or movies. Like you
Oh,
didn't
because you
want
were a
to,
sellout.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like you didn't want to do that. But um, he grew up like growing up with the culture of skateboarding. So like hearing about a skateboarding video game, he said like, yeah, it was a no-brainer. Of course
They're
we want
from
to do
Cali, right?
this.
Isn't he from California?
Ooh, I don't remember.
He sings about walking through streets in I'm gonna look it up. I'm in front of a computer.
Okay. Why not? But yeah, he was emphasizing too, like, this was pre-internet. I mean, the internet was
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
but
he's from LA.
oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, he's from LA, and so yeah, he was around the skateboarding scene. LA had a skateboarding scene, and so he was familiar with it.
Nice. Yeah. But yeah, before like the internet was big, so like this was a way of reaching people in different countries, getting them
Yeah,
familiar with their song and but yeah, it's good good call by him, like understanding what this game was and like how big it would be. I'm sure no one knew how big this would eventually be, but I
even Tony
think
Hawk
the
said that. He said there's always the hope. You have that hope that it's gonna resonate with people, that people are gonna play it because you put something out like this, you put your heart into it. All the developers, all the people, the artists, Tony Hawk himself, all the other skaters involved in it, who are
yeah,
so stoked to be video game character. How cool is that? You're just a skater, you're going out every day, and all of a sudden you're a video game character, and people are like, oh,
yeah,
I want
yeah.
to play that guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Uh
there's always that hope, but no one could have possibly guessed it would have been this impactful and this large on so many
yeah.
different levels.
Oh yeah. Tony was saying he's like it changed my life. He
Yeah,
said it
yeah,
provided for my family. I was on The Simpsons. I went
yeah.
I went to the White House. And what I love about that sentence, like provided for my family, Simpsons, White House, Simpsons was at the same level as the White House. It was like
His
it's
Simpsons
like
appear. He's just as he
yeah.
has the right priority there. Provide for my family. That's the top right there.
Oh
And he's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but then I got to go in the Simpsons and the White House. He like
Right,
those
yeah.
are two cool things.
Well, and he did say Simpsons first
He did.
before
He
the White
did.
House.
Honestly, Tony Hawk is probably more proud of being on the Simpsons.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to
Oh,
speak for him, but
it's
that's funny.
probably yeah.
And that not only that, but it created a massive franchise.
Oh
Tony Hawk
yeah.
Pro Skater 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh
There's
yeah. So
Activision made a lot of money,
oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
in turn, so did Tony Hawk.
Exactly. I mean, like some other fun facts, like there were 12 main games, four spin-offs, five remakes. The latest one, I think the latest one being in 2020, they remastered Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 for PlayStation 4 and that was pretty awesome. I loved it was a good it's hard to explain. It was like good at keeping the nostalgia of those first two games, but really modernizing it. So like the graphics were good and like it felt like a new game. Like so if someone like young were to pick it up, they'd be like, "Hey, this is a fun game." But like
Having played the game back in the day and playing the remake, I can say it feels really good. It feels the same. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
over time, you play other video games and you see the evolution of graphics, and then you go back and play a game. Sometimes you forget how blocky things used to be. You know what I mean? Unless you're playing older
Yeah.
games all the time. And so, like going back into it, the moment that music hits you, though, and I think that's the most powerful thing about music, and why we talk about music, and why we have a podcast talking about music, is because you hear a song that you haven't heard in what 20 years, and you can still sing every single lyric to that song. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yep.
music has such a huge impact on people, and so the fact I think a lot of the remake resonated so well is because of that music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
So,
sure. There's one other interview with one of the musicians, Jay Bentley, the bass player for Bad Religion.
oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Tony approached Brett at Epitaph Records and wanted to put a song in, and Brett, he was like, I don't even know what this is. What is it? I think it's a video game or something. Kind of further, or I guess relating to Primus. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like anyone that wasn't like in the skateboarding scene, they're like, sure.
Sure, I
But
guess.
yeah. I do kind of wonder like if there were any other bands that were asked that said no. And
Yeah.
I wonder like how much they're kicking themselves now. Like, oh man.
Well, you got it. I mean, how many times a day do people make decisions like that where they're like, no, that's not going to do anything, and then they see it explode, 20 years. Like the guy who bought pizza with his Bitcoin that was later valued at like 20, $200 million, something ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Something ridiculous.
what's
So
funny is as you were saying that, I didn't think of that story, but I thought of like people that didn't invest in Bitcoin, back in the day.
yeah, yeah, talking about, oh no, it's a waste of money. It's
Yeah.
the same. It's the same thing. Like, oh no, I'm not gonna let you guys use my song. Like that's weird.
Yeah. But
So,
yeah,
but yeah, that's
it's
interesting to think. Like, I wonder. I want to go look that up later. I should have looked that up beforehand. But how many did they ask anybody that said no, or when Tony Hawk calls you, or like, hey, this is Tony Hawk. I think you know who I am. I'm a skater. Can I use your song for my video game? Probably most people are gonna say, yeah, yeah, sure.
yeah,
Whatever that means. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it was for those interested in hearing more about like the game itself, definitely check out that documentary,
It's
Pretending
good.
I'm a
It's a good
Superman.
watch. Even if
Yeah.
even if you're just into the music aspect of it, it's a good documentary. If you're just into the gaming aspect of it, it's a good documentary. If you just love Tony Hawk, it's a good doc. Either way, like it's just
Yeah.
it's not even an hour long. It's a good watch.
Yeah. Well, and even if like skateboarding in general, it's good because there's a lot of the skateboarders in the game. I think we forgot to mention, but like, there's Bob Burnquist, Kareem Campbell, Bucky Lassick, Chad Muska, Andrew Reynolds. Like if you watched the X Games growing up, you'll be like, oh man, those guys. And
Just to hear those names is like, oh yes.
yeah, yeah. And before we get into the songs, there was one pretty funny story. I mean, lots of good parts, but one funny story with Rodney Mullen, um, that's in the documentary. He's talking about like I guess, skateboarding in a tough neighborhood. They were filming, and this big dude came out, and Rodney says they looked like they were fresh out of prison at best.
Yes.
Yeah. And like in the middle of the intimidation that this guy's like putting on the skaters, he's like, "Are you that guy? Are you in that Tony Hawk video game?" And Rodney says his posture went from bully to kid, like just like that. Love that it was like, oh, yeah. Wonder what
Just
was
so
going through his
like
mind.
I'm coming out here to beat you up for annoying me, and they're like, "Oh wait, you're the guy from the game."
Yeah, I love you. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I think you mentioned it earlier, but I forgot if it was Rodney or one of the other skaters, but like tricks you're seeing nowadays are things you would see on the video game. Oh wait, no, that was Tony. But yeah, like
I think a couple guys said it. No, to be honest, I think a couple guys
yeah,
talked about how like it kind of pushed the limits too, because people saw stuff that wasn't possible yet, but now. But I think that's a natural evolution too of the sport. But
yeah, yeah, true.
it's sometimes further along by seeing it happen and being like, oh look what I can do here. Let me see if I can do that out there.
Yeah. There was another interview with Keanu Reeves I saw. I mean, how can you not talk about that's got to be an uh amazing interview to Oh, I wish I was like there with them. Keanu Reeves and Tony
Fly on a
Hawk.
wall for the Keanu Reeves
Yeah.
interview. Yeah.
Well, they were talking about music being a huge part of skating. Tony or Keanu asked Tony who like some of his favorites were, and Tony mentioned Gang of Four, everything that surrounds that. He mentions the Clash. But yeah, and for the game, he wanted to represent that culture. He talked about, being in skate parks back in the day, having the music on over the intercom. Talked about K-Rock, Jed the Fish,
Yes.
and Tammy Heidi. Um, yeah, and he said Tony provided some of the old school music, and then they were able to get some of the newer stuff like Goldfinger, Powerman 5000, Fu Manchu. So it was a good team effort, good collaboration. So
Yes. Yes, it was. And there's like there's soundtracks for each of the games, but it's really like, man, those first, especially like the first two games, like
oh yeah, yeah,
really changed a lot. I really had those soundtracks that, I don't know, they just were amazing.
yeah. Should we talk about some of those
Yeah,
songs
yeah.
that
Let's
made
talk
it
about the
on?
songs. Because they're great.
Yes.
Because each one, like, I mean, they don't all have like the whole song in there,
Yeah.
but like the parts that they do have are just, I don't know, man. They just hit different when you play the game.
Yeah. So for those that aren't familiar with the game, you get a run for 2 minutes where you get to like accomplish the goals or earn those points. And so 2 minute run, so you hear 2 minutes of the songs.
Yeah.
If you
There's
like
all, I mean,
this,
there's also like free play when you can change the songs, and even in the remake
yeah,
now, you can just press a button to skip to the next track, which is actually kind of cool. They've
yeah.
also added some new songs, which I kind of just skip the newer songs because it's like, yeah, like it's not that they're bad, they're good songs. They have some good songs in there, but I'm like, I want the OG
it's
songs.
it's just not the classic
Yeah,
Tony
exactly.
Hawk 1 soundtrack. Yeah. But yeah, first up, they start off strong with Dead Kennedys police truck.
I like that they start with this because one of the classic rivalries is skaters versus the police. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they had to start with the police truck.
Yeah. Older song, May
Oh
May
yeah,
of 1980. This
87.
was it? Oh, so it was originally made in 1980. It
Oh,
was
was it really?
a B-side from the
Oh,
Holiday
interesting.
Holiday in Cambodia single, later released as the opener in the 1987 Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death album.
Okay, cool, cool.
So, yeah, and this is the song that was on um what is it? I guess the commercial for the re-release. Yeah, I
Oh yeah,
remember.
yeah, 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 for sure.
But yeah, I guess Megadeth did a cover of this song in 2022. It's just
I did not know. How did I not know that? I gotta go listen to the cover of that.
I
That's
yeah, I don't
awesome.
think I've heard it, but I just saw that they did it. I was like, "Oh, what?"
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Ernies here and now.
Here and now.
This one, I'm not. The Ernies is probably one of the bands that I know the least about on the list of songs here. But this
Mm.
is one of the best songs on the album. It is such a
This
good
yeah.
song. I love this song so much. I mean, I don't know, man. It just like the vibe of it kind of reminds me of. I have to listen to it again, but I was listening to it earlier, and it was like this feels like it almost feels like Rage Against the Machine, kind of.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Not as much yelling though.
No.
I,
Either way, really good.
yeah. It was yeah, the Ernies they were formed in 1994. Just four dudes that met at college. um it was interesting hearing about their backgrounds though. Like one of them majored in music education, learning the saxophone and the bassoon. one of
I
one of them
love the
majored
bassoon.
oh yeah, one of them majored in music performance. Someone else studied English. But yeah, pretty cool. They just met in college and like, hey, I'm majoring in music. Hey, I'm music performance. Let's form a band, you know?
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, I guess they've been featured in various things over the years, including the movie Balls of Fury, and I guess a Survivor episode. I don't know if it was this song. I forgot to check that out. But
that is so funny that Balls of Fury that they
yeah, the Ernie's though.
a good one. All right, next, Even Rude, Vilified from their album Super Absorbent, 1999.
Yeah. They don't have a long history, or at least they didn't when this game was made. I guess two albums. But yeah, they've played at the X Games and the Gravity Games, apparently. I wasn't too familiar with the Gravity Games. Have you heard of that?
I'm sorry, what'd you say? They what games?
Gravity Games.
No, I don't think I have.
Yeah. Although I'm not familiar with that, it made me think of the MTV Sports and Music Festival. Did you ever watch that?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. That one I do
That
know.
the I the first one that they did, I think they only did a few and they like
Yeah.
changed the format over the years. But the first one, it was like the X Games, but they had like so many good bands playing there. Like I remember like Blink 182 was there and 311 was there, and I was like,
Yes.
this is the greatest thing ever made, right? It
Extreme
was
sports and dope bands.
yeah, it
No,
was
sorry,
exciting.
sorry. And tight bands.
Tight. Yes,
Tight,
tight.
tight. That's funny.
Yeah.
The next one is it's got to be one of the my. I love this song,
Oh yeah.
Goldfinger, Superman.
Well, the documentary about the game and like talking about the music was based, the title at least based off this song, Pretending
Yep,
I'm a Superman.
yeah.
And it
And that's
was
it's
this
it's kind of perfect because you're flying through the air and Tony Hawk and that was Tony Hawk's life as a first skater just flying through the air, pretending
mhm.
he's a Superman.
Yeah, I mean like it was for the documentary and then when the Olympics brought in skateboarding, to show off skateboarding, they played this song with it, the commercials
Yes.
and everything. It's yeah. It's oh, what else? It's the when you play the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster, it's the menu song. I
Yep.
mean, yeah, it's
It's a very impactful song. I even like the one of fun fact, kind of random. Right when the lockdown hits, all the lockdown hit for COVID,
mhm.
um, Goldfinger got together and they did a bunch of remakes of their songs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And, oh man, did I watch that a lot of times because he's so much older and they all filmed their individual parts in their homes, and so it just
Yeah.
cuts from person to person to person. But man, that Goldfinger when they did Superman, not Goldfinger, when they did Superman again, it was pretty awesome. They did
Yeah.
several songs, but still, Superman is such just a good song.
Yeah. Definitely check it out. It's a fun, upbeat song. It's like more ska, just great song.
Yes. Then we have Primus. Jerry was a race car driver. Down, 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 down,
Yeah.
down.
Primus, they're definitely they've got that signature bass sound.
Yep.
And Kyle, you're a bass player, so correct me if I'm wrong, but that's more of like the slap style bass. Would
Bow,
you
bow.
call that or
Slap or pluck. Maybe it's kind of
okay.
plucky too.
Yeah.
Like did it did, and you slap and then pluck the string out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
More, yeah, it's more apparent than just like a lot of bands, the bass is kind of like the background, but this is like oftentimes the highlight of the songs
Yeah,
for
for sure.
Primus. But
As
yeah,
is the case with Jerry was a race car driver.
yeah. First song off their second album. They've got like 11 albums,
A
something like
lot.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heavy yet like kind of quirky.
That's a great way to, I don't think I could have said it better. That's a great way to put
Yeah,
it. Heavy but a little quirky.
exactly.
That's funny, man. Um, but yeah, that's another one of the older ones. It wasn't it wasn't that old. It was only like 8, 9 years old by the time they released it, but
Yeah.
still not one that happened right there. Next one is Speed Dealer, Screamer, Nothing to Me.
This is more on the intense side of the
Yes.
songs on the soundtrack. A different feel than Goldfinger's Superman, I would say.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
But
And
yeah,
then
they
you
were early 90s band, and apparently they were even touring into the early 2020s. Not too familiar with them, but I guess yeah, still got it in them. They're still playing, so fun
Yeah.
to
Oh
see.
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, same. I don't know too much about them
yeah,
other than the fact that their song is in this game. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
It's a good song though. It's a
But I
good song
mean,
to play the game too.
even if that's like your only claim to fame, that's pretty good. I'll take
It is, right? It
it.
is. Because
Yeah.
even like even if you're touring in 2020, people are going to remember that song. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like let's say
Yeah.
you don't know who Goldfinger is, you go to a concert, Goldfinger's there, you hear Superman, just like those kids in Europe, you're going to go what was the word? Freaking
Freaking
ballistic. You're going to go
ballistic. Yeah.
ballistic. Ballistic.
Yep.
Um Next is Suicidal Tendencies uh Psychovision.
Yeah. And even if you're not familiar with the band Suicidal Tendencies, you probably know Robert Trujillo, now the bassist of Metallica. He played on
Yes.
the Suicidal Tendencies.
Yes, indeed, he did. This
So
is a
they
great
have,
song. It's a good
yeah,
song. I
they're
like that
they're
one a lot.
more, yeah, they're more along the lines of like punk metal, kind of like
Yeah.
a
Oh yeah, for sure.
combo. But yeah, they have like 13 albums plus compilations. So I'd say this is a band more on the you might have already heard of, like along with like Primus and
Yeah, yeah.
Goldfinger, Dead Kennedys. So
Anyway, not to be confused with the next band, the Suicidal Machines,
yeah,
with the song New Girl. Another great song.
yeah. It's and this one goes back to being more like upbeat, you know.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Maybe not as much as Goldfinger's song, but along those lines.
Very true.
Oh, what was it? Someone in the band said that Tony Hawk game, I wouldn't say put us on the map, but almost gave us a second life or a second wave of being noticed by the public. So it definitely got the boost from the game. I'm glad he like
That's
recog
cool.
yeah, he's not too much like saying like, oh no, we were fine, but he's like, well, we got a boost from the game.
Yeah, yeah. Because that song came out in '96, so a few years before the game did. And hearing that game on the album probably gave him a little more, oh hey, like I remember either like I remember these guys, they're awesome, and so it gave him a re-up to go
Yeah.
out and do stuff and tour and stuff like that. Which I'm not
Yeah.
sure of. I'm assuming that happened, but
Yeah.
um,
Well, they
but yeah,
said, yeah, they said they went from playing like 200 or 300 people at a show each night to selling out venues with more than 1,000
that's
like
awesome.
seats. So yeah.
All from a video game. It's crazy, like how many like bands that a couple of these bands were fine before that. You know what I mean?
Oh
Den
yeah.
Kennedy's, Primus, all very established, even with or without the game. But then you have like Goldfinger, who he thinks that this game helped him out. Suicide Machines gave him a revitalization. Like a couple of these bands, I wouldn't even know if not for this game. You know what I mean? And
True. Yeah.
how just a simple video game can give such, a boost of fame and credibility to these people, where they can just go back out and start selling out venues because of one song in one game. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
Unsane committed.
Yeah, this is I guess they formed back in 1988. So one of the older songs. I'm wondering if yeah, from that interview I mentioned, I guess Tony he got some more of the older songs, and so maybe he was a big fan of this band and he's like, "Hey, be on my video game."
Hey, you want to be in my game? I like your
Yeah.
song. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and then a little bit of more of a special song, I think, because of our recent adventures. The
Oh yeah.
Vandals, Eurobarge.
Yes.
First of all, I love the Vandals. This is one of the, like, Goldfinger and the Vandals are probably the two bands on this list that personally were, with or without the game, I would have
Oh
loved the
yeah.
band. You know what I mean? It didn't
Yeah.
take this game to introduce me to these bands. And I knew who Primus was. I knew Dead Kennedys, but like I wasn't a huge listener of those. Not that I wasn't a fan, but I wasn't a
Mhm.
huge listener of theirs. But man, I've always loved the Vandals and the Eurobar
Yeah.
song. It's incredible. While you know, not the nicest song towards Europeans and personal space. It is a great song.
We're not here to dive into the lyrical meaning. We're just talking about the
We're talking about the beat, the tone, and the way the lyrics are sung. We won't talk about the specific lyrics.
no, no.
We do
Sorry.
have we do have a couple viewers in Europe, so I don't want to upset anybody.
Yeah,
Or a couple
we
listeners in
do.
Europe.
You know, I'm sure if even if they're listening, they're like, "No, it's a good song."
It's a good, yeah, exactly.
No.
Someone who's offended by that song probably takes himself a little too seriously, but it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
But yeah,
Kyle,
the Vandals are a great band.
yeah,
They have so many good songs, and this song, as an addition to this, and it fits so well, I think, into the soundtrack. The music, especially.
yeah. You mentioned in the beginning this is a song, or at least a song by a band. Um, our recent adventures. Those of you not familiar, uh, the Vandals drummer is Josh Freese, who
Josh Freese,
happened
my
to
man.
who happened to recently join the Foo Fighters.
Just a little
Um,
band you might have heard of. I don't know.
yeah, if you've listened to our podcast, maybe
I
you've
think we
heard of them.
mentioned them in one of the previous podcasts,
Possibly, yeah.
or 13 of them.
But man, is he a great drummer. Like,
Yeah,
I
oh yeah,
love,
incredible.
like, I mean, he played all the Foo Fighters songs, of course, but I mean, a band as big as the Foo Fighters, it's like they're not just gonna get some random dude. They could get anyone they want.
Oh
Anyone
yeah,
be
for
would
sure.
be happy to play with them. And I love that they got Josh. I mean, he's played with so many other bands, whether in the band or like on tour. And I love at the Foo Fighters concert, he was like in between songs, he would just like, show off his skills. And I was like, man, he's good.
Yeah, for sure.
um, but yeah, he seems like a great dude, great drummer. And I just love the drumming for Eurobarge as well. Just like that's the intro to the song, his drumming. And I was like,
Yeah,
man, this gets the song going. So it's like, here's the song, get ready. And you just want to play a skateboarding video game to it. So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
But yeah, what's funny to hear as well though, he played this to beat boredom on the tour bus when they were performing in Europe. Um, I'd have to go double check, but I guess he was kind of surprised, like hearing it. He's like, "Oh, the Vandals, we've got a song on this thing, Eurobarge." I I don't know exactly. I think I saw the song wasn't on like a different region of the game, something like that. Sorry for not
I
finding
wonder if
out.
they didn't have it on the European version of the
Oh yeah,
game.
It could be.
No, this is
Okay.
this is how great technology is. I'm gonna look that up because I did not know that they
Yes.
had
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
different
yeah.
soundtracks because they do that a lot. You know, they won't include some
Yeah.
portions of movies, some portions of games for whatever political religious reasons and other areas.
I yes, I do have that actually. Eurobarge was not included on the European release of the game.
So good.
It's so good.
That is so good.
Yeah. But yeah, great song. Uh One of the band members, the bassist, Joe Escalante, he was saying if you go on Spotify, stuff like that, it's usually in like the top three songs of ours in popularity.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he attributes that to the video game. Um, I I still think that song would be in their upper songs without it, but yeah, I definitely agree. It still gave it a boost. Maybe like yeah, more of the casual fans. So yeah, those were the songs used. And we should add that this wasn't like a one-time thing. We did mention already there were other games, but they continued with like the good soundtracks. We won't go into like all the details like we are going for this, but like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, they had like Anthrax, Papa Roach, Rage Against the Machine, Power Man 5000, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, you know, continuing with that, they had AFI, who else? House of Pain, Motorhead, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Motorhead.
Yeah,
But the
the
way you said Motorhead is just like Jack Black.
Motorhead. Ah, um,
Motorhead.
the the Ramones. I mean, yeah, it just keeps going and going. I think the success of the game, but also the soundtrack of the first one, it just really opened it up for all of the other games, all the sequels. So,
Yeah, yeah. The LA Times did an article too that Tony Hawk Pro Skater changed punk rock and skating and video games forever.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And it seems so dramatic to say something like that. To say that people's lives were changed by a video game, or or people's careers were made by a video game. But I mean, I don't think it is because it's overstating to say that this game. I mean, just the first iteration of the game put skateboarding on the map for a lot of people, put gaming on the map for a lot of people, put punk rock on the map for a lot of people. And
Yeah,
just like we mentioned in the beginning, it really did change all three of those facets and made it so much more popular to so many people. I'm not going to say it didn't save gaming was fine. Gaming would have been fine. Gaming was
yeah,
an up
yeah,
and coming thing, but and I don't want to say it saved skating either, but like it sure put skating on the map for a lot of people that it generally wouldn't have been on the map for. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. I think that's well said. Yeah, I think skating would have continued, but yeah, definitely put it on the map. Um, but yeah, I think it also gave that boost to video games. I think it was saying, we talked about how many games came from this, but I think it said there were like $1 billion worth of video games sold from this franchise. It really, yeah, music, video games, skateboarding, all of that really benefited from this.
Yeah, for
So
sure. Crazy. One game can
yeah,
change so much.
yeah, for
So
sure.
either way, great game, great soundtrack. We
Yeah.
just went over the soundtrack of the first game, but man, you could do the same with the second game as well.
Oh, for
You got
sure.
MXPX on there. You got Lagwagon with their song May 16th. Beautiful song. Beautiful song.
Nice.
Love that song. Anyway. Anything else you want to add, Kurt, before we head out?
There's one other random fact. I didn't know where to include it, but I thought,
Included
why
right here.
not
It's
at
perfect.
why not at the end? So, funny story. I guess System of a Down's song War, I believe off their self-titled album, was used as a placeholder track during the early development of the game with, get this, Bruce Willis as the main skater.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So there
Because
you go.
before it was like some post-apocalyptic game where you like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
skated through the game and it was Bruce. I remember.
So
I remember that now.
there's your fun random fact for this
Wasn't
podcast
that
as
what
well.
it was when Tony Hawk came in to try it? He was like skating as
Um,
Bruce Willis.
I think so. That sounds familiar.
I don't want to misspeak here, but I think that's what again, go
Yeah.
back and watch the documentary. You'll see
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, they do say it was used as a placeholder. So whether
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was like in the, very beginning stages or during the presentation, it was there somewhere. So, but
Or maybe they
unfortunately,
had this idea for a game and they were like, no, let's actually just make it a skating game, not like Bruce
right,
Willis
yeah.
skating through. But that's so funny. It's so random. Bruce Willis is on a skateboard with a shotgun tied to his back, playing, skating to the song "War" by System of a Down.
They should have had that as an option when they did the remaster of the game.
They really should have. That would have been such like a like or like a hidden thing. Like if you get these achievements or something, you can unlock Bruce Willis mode.
Yeah, yeah,
But then they would have had to pay Bruce Willis quite a bit of money to probably do that.
yeah.
We're like, we're not gonna go there.
Ah, who knows?
That would be
Maybe he would
crazy.
have. I would have, but
I
I'm
would.
not. I'm not Bruce Willis, so I can't say.
They could use me in the game if they want instead of Bruce Willis
Yeah, I'll pay
because
you
I'm.
guys. Put me in.
That's funny.
I
All right.
guess
Well, that
one
was
one last thing though. Of
yes. Oh,
course,
please.
I gotta continue with the tradition, wearing a band shirt. Today I'm wearing
Oh yeah. Who do you got?
Sublime. Sublime.
Nice.
Um, which actually Sublime, why I wore this shirt, their song Same in the End, that appears in the remaster of the game.
Nice.
So I thought, how fitting. Yeah, my
Yes.
sister Kimberly, she went to go see Sublime live recently and she got me this shirt. So I was
Nice. That's
like,
awesome.
that's awesome. Yeah, and thinking back, I think Sublime, when I was in sixth grade, I think Sublime was my first band shirt I got.
Oh, was it really?
I think so. It
That's
was
awesome.
it was definitely one of the first ones. I think it was back when I don't know if you remember Miller's Outpost, that store.
Yeah.
But yeah, they that back in the day they had like all the band shirts. It's kind of like Hot Topic now
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that has all the band shirts, but yeah, back in the day Miller's Outpost had it and I was like, I gotta get that. So
Nice.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah. Check out the games. Check out all of them, or at least check out, the remaster, one of the games,
Worst
even
comes
if
to
it's,
worst, go watch some gameplay on YouTube and listen to hear how the songs. You'll enjoy it. I promise.
yeah, you could probably find a playlist like Tony
Oh,
Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack, and all the videos will be there. So
oh yeah. Oh, you can. I know you can because I looked it up and I listened to it.
that was our preparation.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago when we first started talking about doing this. I was like, let me go back and because I have the remaster now. I don't have the original game anymore, but I have the remaster. And so I went up and I had to, type in original soundtrack and it popped up. So I
Nice.
definitely know it's there.
Yes, indeed.
Cool, man. Well, we'll be back with some more stuff. We got some stuff in the pipeline. Might be talking about Weezer pretty soon. Maybe mention 311 a little bit. Some three new 311 album just dropped.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we definitely want to talk about some more music, and but this one was for sure one we wanted to talk about because of the anniversary and because, well, it's awesome. That's why.
Yeah, and just a little unique. Yeah. Usually we've done, just specific albums of a band. It's like, hey, why not like video game soundtrack?
Yeah.
Change it up a little bit. So hope you enjoyed it. Maybe we'll do something like this again. So, but yeah, definitely other stuff in the future.
Check out the podcast. Check out the documentary about the game. It's awesome. Listen to the songs, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah. Have a good
Yeah.
one.
Tight.